fixing my Jeep Gladiator steel bumper and the color I've decided to go with. Well, good afternoon everybody, and welcome back to Rob Motive JT. If you didn't see earlier, I'm having a bit of a problem with my Jeep's steel bumper. This is the aftermarket knockoff, the three-piece Rubicon style that I bought for the Jeep Gladiator. Real quick though, before I tell you what I'm going to do and we get started, if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button and click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. So, what am I talking about? Well, right here in the front, I've had some paint bubbling. I don't know if you guys can see, and it's due to poor finish, probably poor preparation on the part of the manufacturer of this part. This happens to be a cover where it can be removed and you could put a winch under here. So luckily for me, I can pull it off and do what I'm going to do. There's just a few bolts. I do have to remove this bar because the bolts I need are under here for the sides, and then these three across the front. Now, I mentioned the color. You know, I got a lot of response about this. I could paint it black, I could paint it green, but what I've decided to do is to go ahead and paint it silver, chrome if you will, to go ahead and match the rest of the chrome on the front of the truck for kind of a uniform look. Not really. No way would I paint it chrome. Now, some people had suggested painting it green to match the tow hooks. I just thought that would be too much. Too much green on the front of the truck would look kind of tacky. So, what I'm gonna do, let's unveil it right now. I'm going with this black. It is kind of a matte black, if you will. And the idea is to match it up as best I can. You guys can see there, I think that's a pretty good match. And I did do a test run, if you will. I took a piece of metal that I have right here and I painted a matte black and just a regular black. So I guess this is just the regular black, looking at the label on it now. And here's kind of how I compared it, I guess. I think the closest is just the black, which you can see right there. It's kind of hard to tell, really, but that's what I'm going to go with, and I think since it's down here, below the bar, it should look pretty good. So, let's go ahead, get that piece off, and then I'll show you how I'm going to prep it. We'll get it painted, and then ultimately, I'll put it back on. Okay, as I mentioned, I have to remove all these bolts so I can get to the bolts underneath from over here, so I can loosen or pull that piece off. It takes a Torx 30 bit, so we're going to go ahead, remove all the bolts and see what we get. Hopefully there's no more damage underneath. It could be really rusted under there, I'm not sure. So let's pop these bolts. So we have a nut and a washer underneath. I thought they just screwed into like a threaded hole, if you will, but that's not the case. Lots of hardware. Alright, that removes the bar itself. Doesn't look any worse for the wear. A little bit of rust on it potentially, but that takes care of that. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more bolts to take off to get to this bottom part. And these do not have nuts on the other end. These just have some kind of a holder. So, we'll see how that goes. Okay, we've got it off, and as you can see, it has these little metal clips that are threaded on the other side. That's how it goes in. They can just be pulled off, so that's not going to be too difficult. But that's the piece. Really, other than, I wonder if you could actually move it around the other way. Potentially you could, but it would look kind of funky and you'd have a gap down here, so probably not going to do that, but one probably could if you wanted. So this is the side that I have to sand. You can see here are the little areas. The paint is loose, just waiting to pop off. So next up is to get this thing sanded. I'll show you what I'm going to use for that. All right, let's take a quick look at the open area now that I have it exposed. Again, this is where the winch would sit. That's really a nice place to put it. I mean, it's a nice design. Nice sturdy plate under here. Believe me, I lifted it. It's heavy. A little bit of surface rust here. I might clean that up a little bit, probably. Not along the front, that's good. And again, a little bit here, and that might actually be from the bolts, probably. But otherwise, it looks pretty good under there. Now, taking a look at the piece itself, I actually did strongly consider just flipping it and putting it on, because the other side looks like it's doing quite well. No signs of bubbling or anything. Of course, it's protected and it's not exposed, but we're not going to do that. So what I'm going to do, and this is where if you were a smart person, you would actually have some sort of an electric grinder or something, which I do have, but I'm not good enough with it to tear into this thing. I think I would probably make it worse. So I'm going to do it by hand. That's right, the old-fashioned way. So what I've got is a couple different grits. I have a 60 and an 80, and then I have like 120 or something sheets that I might finish it with. But I'm not looking for a nice smooth finish, because I am going to prime it and then paint it with that black. So I'm going to go ahead, see how it goes, sanding it first off. Wish me luck. Hopefully it sands well. I'm not exactly sure. I've never finished one of these this way before, so let's break out the 60 grit. I want something a little more coarse, I guess. And I thought about going with something even worse, but or more coarse, but this I think is probably good enough. So, and we're already losing some of the grit. Here we go. Let's see what we get. Alright, thought I'd show you guys. I went ahead and knocked the paint off of the areas that are bubbling, and you can see this is what it looks like. And this is what it would look like once that paint all came off. So you can see it'd be kind of nasty looking if I wasn't going to go ahead and fix this. There is a little bit of rust. I think it's just surface rust underneath, of course, where the water got underneath. But there are quite a few areas, and there's the pile of paint. Anyway, I'm going to continue sanding. Hopefully this will give me a better foothold now that I have an edge. Alright, I've got it sanded as much as I'm going to sand it. My original plan was to take it all the way down to the metal everywhere, but then I thought, you know, everything else is in good shape. Why start all over? I already have a base coat, if you will. I've got all the loose parts off, and you can see I did find a couple more. A little one there, a little bit here, but otherwise there's no more bubbled areas. So that's what it would look like had I let it go eventually, and of course everything would be rusted. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some primer, just something I happen to have around. This is a high heat primer, so why not? We're going to go ahead and put 3 coats of this on 10 minutes apart, and then I'll probably put 4 or 5 coats of the black paint on, again about 10 minutes apart. No clear coat this time around because I don't want a shiny finish, and I frankly don't think it's necessary. Okay, I do have the first coat of primer on, and I want to let you know, well, this is actually my second coat. When I put the first coat on, I discovered some other areas that were bubbling as well. So I, in essence, started all over, got a different grit sandpaper, and it worked much better. I got a lot of the paint off, not all of it, but it does give me a smoother look, so it should look better in the end. I should have a better finished product, I think. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. It, of course, looks a little different than it did before because I did have to start over. Now, we're going to wait 10 minutes and then 10 minutes more to put 3 coats of primer on, and then we'll get to the paint. Got it all done. 3 coats of primer and about 6 paint coats. Again, trying to protect it. It doesn't look brand new, but it's much better than having bubbling pieces or paint parts underneath, I guess. Where we know that it was rusted. So let's take a look. You guys can see, again, it's not perfect. And keep in mind, some of these areas are going to be hidden. This tucks underneath. The sides tuck underneath, both sides. But we probably still will see a couple imperfections like right there. And maybe a little tad, no, probably not. So overall, I think the main part of it right across there is going to look pretty good. I do believe it will rust out eventually. Hopefully it'll be quite a while. I'm not sure it will survive with me long enough for that to happen because I do still like the other bumper that I talked about, but we shall see. So that's it for that part of the project today. Of course, I have to leave it dry. That's going to take a while, probably at least a week, week and a half, and then we'll clean that area up and bolt it back on. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. How did it come out? How are my painting skills? Be nice. I'd be curious to know. Also, if you didn't at the beginning, remember, I do have 2 additional channels. Rob Motive, all about my 2021 Toyota Tacoma and other Tacoma news. And Rob Motive FST, all about full-size trucks. Of course, the current Ram 1500 that I have. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.